Okay. So I am a loyal person. That's why I'm a Yankee fan, because there were no Mets when I was a little boy. The Yankees were the only team in town. And that is why I'm a New York Football Giant fan, because the Giants were the only team in town. There were no Jets. And I've always been a Knicks fan. Always been a Knicks fan. But then all of a sudden, Brooklyn got back a team. The Nets were coming to Brooklyn, and only a half a mile from my house. And I helped get the stadium built with certain help. So I didn't know what to do. Who am I going to root for? The Knicks, where I've been loyal, but the Nets, Brooklyn, I'm loyal to Brooklyn too. So here's what I decided to do. I would go to the opening game of the first Nets game ever, Knicks-Nets. It was at Barclays Stadium, right by my house in Brooklyn. And I would follow my heart. And whatever my heart said, I would be for. It was Sandy, the night of Sandy. The game was canceled, and I still haven't done that experiment. So I like both things. Okay. All right, now let's get to more serious matters right here. Okay. First, I want to thank our guests very much for being here, as well as you, our guests. What's that noise? Okay. Each of the fine folks with... You ready? Go ahead, take your time. Channel 2. Is that Channel 2? Are you okay? Yeah. What is that? Angela, I didn't hear.
There's someone who's confused, but they're not anymore.
Okay. I'm confused. Okay. Deprogrammed, shall we say. Okay, so each of the people behind me represents a cumulative many, many millions of followers online, from YouTube to Instagram to Twitter, just to name a few. We have Huge Ma, also known as TurboVax. He took Twitter by storm, you may remember, at the height of the pandemic. He mastered tech in a way government could not, as to help get more shots in people's arms. We have Dr. Mike Warshawski, who is YouTube's most famous doctor, or most followed doctor, I guess. He's got 16 million followers with all his platforms. He's got 1 billion views. And we have the wonderful Dr. Heather Irabunda. She's an obstetrician and gynecologist from the Bronx, and she educates tens of thousands on her Instagram page every day. So these three people are educators with tremendous reach, educating the American people, New Yorkers, that the vaccines are necessary and important to beat back COVID. And what's particularly important about these three folks and others is they have followings among young people. The group we're having the most problems with getting the vaccinations are 18 to 29-year-olds. You know, youth. They think they're impervious to any kind of bad thing that happens, the optimism of youth. But what they don't understand is COVID's an evil disease. It can creep up on you even if you're young and healthy, and you might be spreading it even if you don't show symptoms. So getting the vaccines is very important, and the missing piece of the puzzle is our young people. If we could get the 18 to 29 to vaccinate at the same rate as older people, we'd just about be home free in getting to the 70% level that the President wants us to be at by July 4th. So the more that our young people hear from folks like this, the better chance we have of beating COVID, the sooner chance we have beating COVID. So we're showcasing these great New Yorkers in a push to get our federal government and the CDC to use them and people like them. There are many others who have the kinds of followings that these three folks have to get it done. Where do our young people most get information? Social media. So your typical, public service ads on regular television, billboards, But you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on Twitter, where these folks have their followers, millions and millions of them, you will get results. So that's what we're urging the CDC to do. Use these folks, use folks like them, and we can beat this COVID and get young people vaccinated once and for all. A new Kaiser family study just found only half of young adults have even gotten one vaccination, let alone two. And a quarter of this group says they want to, quote, wait and see if the vaccine is working. I tell these young people, I don't know if this does any good, that my parents were 97 and 92, and they got vaccinated. They had no bad side effects, and it's worked for them. They're immune. So if it can work for a 97-year-old and a 92-year-old, it can work for a 25-year-old and a 27-year-old. But anyway, we can't wait. This wait-and-see attitude that too many young people have is no good. We can't wait and see, and so we're asking that the federal government do more. You have to go beyond, because it hasn't worked as well as it might with young people. And the best way they can do this is call in TurboVax to discuss how to use existing platform technology to reach more young people. Maybe they can send people in his direction. Call in Dr. Mike to join with some of our other officials at CDC who want to get a message out that 16 million people will hear in a second. Call on Dr. Irabunda to target about the myths about pregnancy and fertility, very important, and to reach communities of color, which, by the way, our communities of color are doing better than anybody thought. The young people are the real laggards. You know, a 60-year-old white person and a 60-year-old African-American person have about the same likelihood of being vaccinated these days because of people like the good doctor. And by the way, I give our clergymen a lot of credit. I've heard from more pulpits the need to get vaccinated, so that's a good thing too. Okay, so we need to get this done. We have a war happening right now across the platforms of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter, where the people who are trying to get people not to vaccinate are out there. We need the best antidote here that we have, represented by these three fine people. And this is, always have a sign from Angelo. Myths versus facts. This is a war of myths versus facts. The people behind me represent facts. They can put a dagger through the heart of the myths. And here are the 5 top myths that the CDC has to bust. I'll hold it up while I say it. 1, the vaccine causes pregnancy and fertility problems.
That's a myth.
Okay. You started it off well. I think we're going to keep that up.
I know, right?
The second myth, the vaccine was developed too quickly and was not properly researched and tested.
Absolute myth, well-researched, great safety record.
Okay. The vaccine has long life side effects that will most impact younger people later in life.
Myth.
The vaccine will alter your DNA altogether.
Definitely myth.
Myth.
And the last one is blood clots are very common and occurring in many people. So these are all myths.
Yeah.
These are the myths we have to beat. TurboVax, you're on. Did you know you were going to say something?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Thank you. And he's a Knicks fan.
Thank you, Majority Leader, for having me on and letting me share the stage with the real heroes of the pandemic. I just write code for a living, so I'm honored to be on here. I was inspired to build TurboVax, as some of you may already know, after discovering how challenging it is to secure a vaccine when I was looking for one from my mom right here. And I never would have imagined that I would have been able to help so many New Yorkers find their vaccine, or that I would earn a nickname or two along the way. So I think my my experience and that of many other volunteers and community aid organizations show that people on the ground and within our communities see and do differently than our government does. And I think as we're entering this next stage of outreach and vaccine distribution, there's a really great opportunity for collaboration between the government and tech and socially savvy people and organizations to do the right outreach. So we've done a lot of work offline. There's still plenty of work to do. There's a lot of work to do online as well. And I think hopefully we can find new creative ways to reach young people now that they are now eligible, and so that we can get everyone vaccinated. So, thank you.
And TurboVax makes a point, I forgot it. Until recently, young people couldn't get vaccinated because of the various restrictions. So that put us a little behind the 8 ball as well. But now they can as easily as anybody else. You're 16 or over, you go to a place, you get the vaccine. Okay, let's call on the great Dr. Heather Irabunda.
Yep. Hi, I'm Dr. Heather Irabunda. I'm an OBGYN in the Bronx, from the Bronx.